Hello, welcome, and welcome back to the United Mates Football Podcast. Today, I am joined in LA by my co-host Joe from back in London, and we are very excited to have a special guest with us as well. He's the man behind CroatianSports.com, a fellow Southern Californian like myself, and he's actually our show's most prolific guest. Making his fourth appearance, we welcome Ante Kvartuč to the United Mates Football Podcast. Speaking of the number 4, something that comes around every 4 years is the Euros. And that's what we're going to be speaking about today, specifically England versus Croatia. And we're just going to ignore the fact that Euro 2020 actually took 5 years to come around and that it's taking place in 2021. But anyway, Ante, welcome back. How are you doing?
What's up, boys? Kei, Joe, it's been a pleasure. We meet again, and I think it's fitting. It feels like it's every other year. Croatia's meeting England in some capacity. Joe, sorry about the Spurs. I haven't talked to you since that Zagreb match, since that Orsic hat trick at Maksimir. But I think you guys are gonna have to put me on payroll soon. I think it's time.
Yeah, no one's even come close. I think maybe one other person has been on twice, but you're way out in front. Otherwise, Joe, Spurs are replacing Mourinho with the man who failed to do the job that Mourinho has just gone to Roma to do. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I don't know how good that piece of news makes me, but he sounds like a bit of a character, Paulo Fonseca. So we'll see. It's not been announced yet, but it sounds like it's probably going to be him. But obviously, well, fortunately for me, we're not talking about Spurs today. After the whole Spurs versus Zagreb debacle, I think we can leave Spurs now for the rest of this episode. But Ante, you know the drill by now. You've come on this podcast a few times. But for anyone that doesn't, we always ask our guest an icebreaker question to kick off the podcast. And unsurprisingly, it's all Euros related today. So I'm going to ask Ante a question, but I'll answer it first and then Kei will, so he has time to think of an answer. But the question is, what is your favourite Euros memory? Mine, and I'm not just saying this because of the theme of this episode, it actually was watching England-Croatia back in Euro 2004. We won 4-2. Wayne Rooney, a very young Wayne Rooney, had a brilliant game. He scored a couple of goals. And I just remember it being a very enjoyable evening. And it was a really strong England team that probably should have done better in that tournament that played that night. Kei, how about you? What was your favourite Euros memory?
It's going to come from the same tournament. Of course, I remember that fixture that you're talking about. England came out on the right side of the result that day. I think Rooney had also scored a brace against Switzerland in the tournament too. So kind of the dawn of Wayne Rooney on the international scene. Otherwise, I actually went to that tournament in Portugal, but I was unfortunate to see, I think, the one group game that we didn't win, which would have been against France, when Zidane scored twice to turn things around and we lost 2-1. But my favorite Euros memory still comes from that trip. I remember being out at some night market in Lisbon and I managed to spill a guy's beer over a balcony, whatever the setup was. And as you know, like a young 10-year-old kid who spilled a stranger's drink in a foreign country, I was quite anxious at first, but then we all sort of watched as the beer fell off this balcony, landed on like a roof below and began to funnel. It was like a corrugated roof. So it begins to funnel downwards and it spills off of the top of this roof onto a kid's head who kind of, as it spills onto him, looks up at us from many stories above in surprise, and we're all laughing. So I just remember feeling like I'd gotten away with one.
That's collateral damage. Hey, at these tournaments, when you go into the Frances and the Portugals, wherever the tournament's being hosted, collateral damage, they know what they're getting. And that's, trust me, that's small dice compared to other stuff I've seen at these tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, we feel bad, I guess, for the innocent kid, but like you said, that's part of the experience, maybe, and it certainly, worked out in my favor rather than having an angry man at some kid who just spilled their beer. Otherwise, Ante, if you want to jump in with your favorite Euros memory.
I mean, we've had a few, but I'm going back to 2008 round of 16. No, I'm sorry, quarterfinal game against Turkey. It's 0-0 throughout the whole thing. I'm watching this on TV. And Ivan Klasnic, who's been brought up in trivia between us before, scores a 119th minute header against Turkey. We think we're going to the semis to play Germany, who we already beat in the tournament. And that was just complete euphoria for about 90 seconds until Turkey scored a leveler in the last kick of the game and then beat us in penalties. But I mean, that was completely euphoric going, oh, we're going to the semis, which is huge. But to top that, I was actually in Bordeaux at Euro 2016, 5 years ago. I was in the stadium for Ivan Perisic's game winner against Spain to top the group. Outside of that, going to the stadium's awesome, especially when your team wins. There's nothing about that. But hanging out in the town square in Bordeaux with thousands and thousands of Croatians from all over the planet, drinking, lots of drinking, singing, sharing stories. I just got chills right now. It's magical. It's magical, and it doesn't matter if you're Croatian or if you're English or if you're Italian or Spanish. I mean, that's what this is all about. I mean, I was talking to people from Australia, from Germany, from Canada, from New Zealand, from all over the place, just sharing stories. And that's why this is the beautiful game. It's really connecting people. And for everyone watching that has not been to an international tournament, obviously this is a weird year. You have to go, not just on your bucket list, but you should be going every 2 or 4 years, World Cup or wherever, because that's when you start talking to, your countrymen and countrywomen. And I mean, that, like I said, I just got chills right now. That is what these tournaments are all about.
You should be a brand ambassador for the Euros. You sold it very well, but you also, of course, referred to the fact that it is going to be a bit different this time around with COVID restrictions and I guess kind of the international nature of the tournament within Europe.
I had to dump my tickets. I had tickets for Scotland, and Scotland's been on my list. Maybe I would have visited Joe coming through Heathrow.
Nice.
But it's I had tickets and everything, but you have to dump them because you don't know if you're going to get in the stadium at the end of the day, and I didn't want to bug it. So it was on my list, but drinking with the Scots after playing Scotland and it's just magical. And then when you actually make friends with the people that, the country that you're playing against, I mean, I've made lifelong friends that I still speak to, even though we're on two sides of the coin right now. I consider you guys friends, and that's what it's all about.
We definitely consider you one of our friends as well, Ante, and we're glad to hear you say that. We're actually, Joe and I, going to be heading to a wedding in Scotland probably a year or so from now. So we'll promise to get plenty of drinking done in your honor up there. Otherwise, we're recording this podcast on Thursday, the day before the Euro 2020 tournament starts, and a few days ahead of England and Croatia's Group D opener on Sunday. Before we get into the actual fixture itself, I want us to quickly run through the two nations squads and see how we all feel about those, if there are any names that we're surprised made the cut or those that were left out even. And I guess we can take a look and see where we think weaknesses in the starting 11s might be. So I'll throw out a bunch of names of these sort of like problem and solution players from England's squad, and I'm curious to see if Joe agrees with what I have to say. So beginning with the keepers, I think that they're all a potential weakness. Jordan Pickford seems to be the number one, and he has not been particularly convincing in an England or an Everton shirt for a few seasons now. The other guys who came along are Dean Henderson, who kind of didn't finish the season particularly well with Manchester United, and then Sam Johnstone, who had a good season but was relegated with West Brom. So I think that that's kind of a problem area for England. Likewise, the centre-back position. The likes of Connor Cody and Tyrone Mings have come along, and then obviously Harry Maguire did make the squad, but injury looks as though it might put him out of the starting 11 for at least the beginning of the tournament. We'll see about that. Otherwise, moving on to midfield, I think Phil Foden is, we were talking about Rooney at Euro 2004. He's kind of the equivalent at this time. I think he could be a player to take his reputation to even higher heights than he has this season with City. Likewise, Jude Bellingham, who's playing in Germany, is a young player, probably the youngest in the squad, who I think is going to be a crucial player in that midfield, along with Declan Rice, who I think has kind of a make or break summer on the cards, with talks of Chelsea being interested in signing him. Just moving on to the forwards now. As an Arsenal fan, I have to throw Bukayo Saka's name in there. Southgate seems to like him, and I'm not surprised because if you watch him week in, week out like I have, he's a quality player, up there with Foden in terms of the two best youngsters in the Premier League this season. And then another player from Germany, Bellingham's teammate, Jadon Sancho. At Dortmund, I think obviously Kane is someone I'm not mentioning, but along with Kane is going to be pivotal in terms of unlocking defenses. So Joe, what do you make of some of these surprise inclusions or surprise exclusions from the squad, and where do you think that maybe England's team has issues?
I mean, like you said at the start, the 3 goalies we've got, Pickford has been good in the past, but he's had a pretty shocking season. Henderson would probably be my number 1, but I'm not that mad about him. He didn't even play that much this season. He's capable of a big error, but probably the best of the 3 at the moment. Sam Johnston, good for him. He's made the squad, but yeah, he's probably the 3rd choice goalie out of those 3. Obviously, we've got so many fullbacks in the squad. Well, we did. Obviously, Trent sadly got injured, which I think is a real shame. Aaron Wan-Bissaka not being in there is a bit odd to me. Arguably, he's the best from a defensive perspective of all of them. Kyle Walker and Reece James are both really good. Trippier, I know he won La Liga, not so sure about him. Maybe that's from seeing him play for Tottenham and seeing him make quite a lot of mistakes. But, he scored that good free kick for England, so maybe he'll do the job again. Going into... We've got some good midfielders. Jude Bellingham is pretty exciting and he's so young, so maybe he can be the kind of Wayne Rooney in terms of creating excitement as a youngster at the Euros. But it's our attacking options where it's just outrageous when you think of the options we've got. We've obviously got Harry Kane up front, Jack Grealish, Phil Foden, Mason Mount, Rashford, Sterling. That doesn't even include Saka, who's, like you said, been one of the best young players this season. So, we've almost got too many choices. I don't know if that makes it more difficult when you have so many great players at your disposal, but you'd like to think that Southgate can, between a few of those names, make something happen. Then obviously it's home advantage for us. So we're playing all our games at Wembley. If that's not going to help us, I don't know what will. And
is there a little hesitation in your voice about this game on Sunday?
I don't know, actually. I think in the past, when an English side has played a Croatian side, I've incorrectly said the English team will win. But this is international football. I think we're going to get onto Croatia. I don't think you're the force you were at tournaments of past. So
absolutely not.
Yeah.
We're going with low expectations, my friend.
And I feel like it's probably a good time to play your first game of the tournament. Hopefully, we'll see. It could work.
All the pressure's on you guys. The pressure's on you guys.
Yeah, that's true. But then, it's a lot of these players, it's their first European tournament. So it's the chance for some of these guys to show off their skills. And yeah, you're hoping the likes of Grealish, Phil Foden with his Gazza-inspired haircut now, dyed, bleached blonde.
What's up with that? What's he doing?
It's the tribute to Paul Gascoigne from Euro 96. He did it at that one. So, hopefully he'll play like Gascoigne did on the pitch. We'll see.
He looks like a Backstreet Boy. It's awful.
He does. He definitely does look like a Backstreet Boy. But yeah, Kai, is there any of the young players in particular you're most looking forward to from the England team?
I think Foden and Saka, because he's a City player, I'm kind of inclined to not really like Foden, but because he is a generational talent in terms of England football, I can't help but like the guy. He's so good. He's so incredibly good. I think he massively underwhelmed in the Champions League final, which was a bit of a shame for him personally. And I think seems like quite a hungry young guy. So I'm sure he'll be keen to kind of make amends for that at the Euros. And speaking of Backstreet Boys, I think when we recorded with Anthony Costa from the boy band Blue, and we subjected him to boy bands made out of footballers, Foden made it into my boy band. So I think that the Backstreet Boys comparison is an apt one. Otherwise, Ante, what are your thoughts on this current England team? I know you said it sounds like the pressure is all on us.
Yeah, you have great individual talents. We talked about Foden had a great season at City. You have Sterling, you have your Kanes, you have your Rashfords. But this is one thing that's always interested me about English football is, and from what I've heard from all my English mates, is that it's club before country. And that's why there's always a cohesiveness missing when England gets to the tournament. They have all these great talents, but can they glue it all together? Can all these players pull together? So, you've had your Lampards, your Rooneys, your Gerrards, and that generation of fantastic players. And then they always fall short at tournaments. So So I'm curious what happens to this, because I think there's a bit less ego. I'm a big Mount fan. I think he's a great personality and he's a great player. And you saw what he did with Chelsea this year. I'm wondering if Southgate can kind of tone down that ego, because there is less ego, I think, on this team. And I think you guys can make a quarterfinal, semifinal run. I don't see you guys close to the final. I think Portugal and France are I think France is going to win the whole thing again. I'm just wondering if you guys have that cohesiveness. But if you lose to Croatia at home at Wembley, this is basically a home tournament for you guys. I think you only have to leave for the round of 16 in the quarterfinals to Rome, and then the semis and the finals are back at Wembley. It's basically a home tournament. You're hosting your own home tournament at Wembley after COVID. That's why I said the pressure's on you guys. If you lose to us, and we are probably at our lowest peak that we've been in a decade. The English media is going to do what the English media does, and I don't want to be there for that. So I think we're going to give you a fight. But I'm just curious which English team shows up. I mean, like I said, you have great individual talents, but you have to get that cohesiveness. You have to get that glue. When I've talked to all my pros and my professionals in Croatia, I'm starting to understand what it means. They say luck. You need a little bit of luck in these tournaments, but what they really mean is momentum. Momentum's a real thing. It's a real living thing in the locker room. And I think the country, like, I'm going to compare Croatia and England because we both met in the semifinals of the 2018 World Cup. It's when it's a living, breathing thing, and you hear from the media and the fans are kind of, it's you're feeling it and you're riding it. I think that's what they mean. And you have to get on that train. So you can't get off to a slow start or a squabble in the locker room. And that's what I mean about Southgate managing egos, because these guys know how to play footy. They know how to play. You're not going to teach them anything they don't know already, but how do you manage those expectations and how do you manage those egos? Do you have the talent to go to the final? Absolutely. But it's easier said than done. So I'm interested, just as you are, to see what happens on England. But I think right now, what was it? 1-0 against Romania in a friendly with a PK. I mean, I can't tell who's playing possum here. I think we're playing possum I think we're absolutely playing possum. I think England's been trying to get their glue right. Cause you're right, Kei and Joe. Do you have too many players to pick from? And that's also a problem. So we'll see. You guys are going to need your standout guys. If Grealish can do what Grealish can do and up his value, and then he goes to a top 4 club, like this is his time. Sterling is Sterling. Kane's going to get a couple goals, but guess what? He's not playing against Panama anymore, folks. This isn't Panama. He's not going to score 8 goals against Panama at the World Cup. So I'm interested. It could go anyway. It could go either way, and I'm interested to see what happens on Sunday.
Oh yeah, I think we all are, and yeah, I'm sure Kane's going to get his first goal of the tournament on Sunday, no doubt. Probably a penalty. We'll take it and move on. And just on Grealish, he's the guy that I'm very much looking forward to at this tournament. He's the guy I think could really pull the strings for England. But let's talk a bit about Croatia. I know, Ante, you've already said that this is, the weakest Croatia have arguably been in the last 10 years or so. But just tell us a bit about the general squad. How does it kind of compare to the previous Croatia squads we've seen at other tournaments?
Yeah, and I'm probably playing a little bit of possum right now. Our midfield is stacked as always with our midfield maestro. I'm sure you've heard of him, Mr. Luka Modric. The guy is incredible, 35 years old. He was Real Madrid's Player of the Year this year. Absolutely incredible. We're going to have Inter Milan's Marcelo Brozovic as our CDM, our number 6. I mean, he's a top 3 CDM in the world. Rumors are that we're going to play Chelsea's Mateo Kovacic alongside Modric, which I hate because it takes away one of our attacking. There's nothing that Kovacic can do that Modric doesn't do already. But I think that's what they're going to do. I think we're going to play possession against England, really slow the tempo down. I think if you can, if I was in the England locker room, I'd go, you go down our flanks with your wings. And I think you're going to burn us right now because we have some defensive issues. Our weak spots right now is defense. Everyone's favorite former Liverpool defender, Dejan Lovren, will not be starting against England. He had a bit of a knock and that pairing with him and Vida, who played against England. We're bringing in Marseille's Douye Chaleta-Tsar, who's solid. He was also looked at by Liverpool in the summer. It's always England linked. It's always a Premiership linked. We're having a left back issue. We don't know who we're going to start at left back. There's this new guy that just left Dinamo Zagreb, Joe's favorite club. He's going to RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga. We don't know what we're going to do there. Šime Vrsaljko, who plays for Atletico Madrid, he didn't play the past couple months once Kieran Trippier came back from his suspension, so he's not in form. What you need to know is we don't have a striker. We are going to greatly miss Mario Mandzukic, who absolutely burned you guys at the World Cup. We don't have a point man. We're probably going to play a false nine. We're probably going to play AC Milan's Ante Rebic up there, but we don't really have a lot of attacking options up front. And, if we can score one goal at Wembley, I'd be happy, but we've been having some scoring issues as of late. And, and Croatians are very worried about that. It's funny, before the tournament, you're either flying in high going, we just won 3 friendlies in a row. But I think Croatian fans and supporters and English supporters are kind of on the same keel, just a little bit of nervous which team's going to show up, because we can both be playing possum, or we can both just, completely fall apart on the field. But I would be worried if Croatia gets a goal first at Wembley, especially if we play Kovacic, because we'll play a possession game. We're going to slow the game down for you. But if you can catch us on the counter, I think, our defense is not weak, but new, and there's a lot of communication issues back there. So we'll see if England's speed comes into play during the game on Sunday.
We certainly will, and it feels like there's definitely an opportunity for those talented English even attackers to really make the most of that. But we'll see what happens. But let's talk more about just the match itself, England-Croatia, not just on Sunday, but generally over the last few years. And obviously, we played a few Nation Leagues games, but the sort of the
we're not counting Nations League. We're not counting friendlies. Forget about it.
I'm okay with that too. But yeah, so the most recent one was the World Cup semi-final, where of course Croatia won 2-1. But there's been some other pretty iconic games aside from that one over the years. We had the 4-2 game in Euro 2004, which we spoke about earlier. There was the Wally with the Brolly game in 2007, where Croatia stopped us from getting to the Euros. McLaren's last game in the rain at Wembley. We were just speaking before this podcast, of course. England actually then stopped Croatia from going to the 2010 World Cup. We got a few big wins. I think Theo Walcott might have even scored a hat-trick at one point in one of those games against Croatia. So,
you beat us 4-1 and 5-1 that qualifying campaign.
Yeah, Fabio Capello doing the job for us, clearly. Yeah. But yeah, it's sort of basically the point is, over the last few years, it's become a pretty iconic international game in many ways. So, Ante, how do Croatian people feel about this kind of almost English-Croatian rivalry that's emerged?
Love it. We love stopping it from coming home. Oh, if I have to hear that song one time this Euro, which I know I will, I'm getting it from my I have a Irish mate in Dublin, and he goes, oh, if England wins it, I'm canceling my Sky Sports, because that's all they're going to play for the rest of the summer as it's coming home. It's so much fun. You have to remember, you're the mighty UK, you're mighty England, you're the mighty Premiership with all the money in the world. It was just an all English Champions League final. And then little old Croatia that, came from a war 20 years ago, has this refugee Luka Modric Ballon d'Or winner that's going toe to toe with you guys. We love it, baby. We love it. It's so much fun. We love hearing what your media has to say. English media in 2008 called us an inferior footballing nation. So you should really call the Guardian and all those places and just tell them to shut up, because you're just firing us up. But this is what a rivalry, and it is a rivalry because it's been going back and forth. You guys started it in Euro 2004. You pipped us in group stage. No big deal, just group stage. We denied you Euro 2008, okay? You denied us our only World Cup that we missed in South Africa 2010. But guess what? Who got the big game? 2018 semifinal. We went to the final. It's not coming home, baby. We love it. We love it. Absolutely love it.
I think all of this bravado from Ante is going to make it that much sweeter when inevitably it does come home in the summer. But moving on to specifically this opening game that's going to take place on Sunday, and I kind of wanted to bring up a couple of individual sort of matchups and some areas on the pitch that we can probably look to keep an eye on. And Ante, you touched on a couple of these as well. But I think we've spoken about the English goalkeepers. Livakovic, from what I can tell, is likely to be the starter for Croatia on Sunday, and he's quite an eccentric keeper who on his day can, either be your hero or your villain. So this is also his first major tournament as well. Gone is Subasic and Pletikosa and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And then you referenced Lovren, everyone's favorite former Liverpool centre back. Lovren's not going to be on the day playing at centre back, so it's up to Vida and co against Kane. And I think, Vida's quite a specialist defender. So on his day, he could kind of mark Kane out of the game. But I just wonder if England are the ones playing possum and actually maybe we'll show up to this tournament with a less one-dimensional attack than we've had in the past. In which case, if you guys are too busy marking Kane, I think that, there's players like Rashford, like Sterling, like Sancho, like Grealish, like Foden, who might cause you some trouble. I think on the plus side for Croatia, with Modric and player like Kovacic and Brozovic as well, if they're in there, you very easily could kind of control that midfield battle and play a possession game against us, which will, largely dictate how the game plays out. And then another thing you talked about was the forwards. You've got Petkovic, you've got Kramaric, Mandzukic isn't there anymore. It seems like, as you said, you might end up playing with more of a false nine, someone like a Rebic, relying on players like him and Perisic for goals, kind of as you've done in the past, rather than having that focal point, a target man, or just kind of fox in the box player. So, Ante, am I underestimating Croatia, or from what I've been saying, does it look like the odds are in England's favor?
Your analyses have been very well. I'm very proud of the homework that you've done. No, I mean, I think it'd be a success for Croatia to get a draw at Wembley. Like I said, we pipped you last 3 years ago at the World Cup. I think you owe us one in this almost every 2-year rivalry that we have. So I'm looking forward to that. This is the thing we were talking about off camera, though, is you don't want to finish first in this group, which is absolutely bizarre to me, but it is. If first place in this group will play second place in the France, Germany, Portugal group, which is the ultimate group of death that I've ever seen. I've never seen a group of death like that. You have the reigning Euro champions, the reigning World Cup champions with Germany. Absolutely insane. So whoever wins our group has to play one of those teams in the round of 16, where if you finish second, you're going to end up playing a Sweden or a Spain in the round of 16. Much more comfortable run. And as you know, in the World Cup, I hate saying, oh, you want to aim for second place because you want to just go, balls to the wall and play your best footy and win every game. But I said this at the 2018 World Cup. I preached it for a year. Once the draw came out, we didn't want to play France in the round of 16. And if we would have finished second in our group, we finished on top of Argentina, we would have played France. Instead, we played Denmark on the easier side of the draw alongside England. So do I care that if we lose to England? Absolutely. I don't want to lose, but the main thing is winning the tournament, putting you in a position to win the tournament. So you're aiming for second place, which is absolutely bizarre even before the tournament kicks off. But that's why I hate this 2014 tournament. It was so much purer in 2012 when we had the 16-team tournament. It's the hardest tournament in the world, and if you add Brazil and Argentina to it, it's basically a more prestigious tournament than the World Cup. There are no Panamas and Tunisias, boys, that are that are going through group stage, as the English know. So I think it's a win-win. If we beat, this is my thought, if we beat England at Wembley in a Euro Championship, wow, absolutely incredible. We did it again. If we draw, I think both sides would consider that a success. And if we lose, big deal. We'll take care of Scotland and Czech and move on from there. So it's a win-win-win for Croatia.
I think on the momentum that you were talking about, England really have to win. A draw is not particularly acceptable if they're going to get any win behind their sails in terms of going far in this tournament. But I still think good luck to any team that is strategizing coming lower down the group to end up playing against Spain potentially, because they're a side not to be underestimated at any international tournament. But finish
Spain?
up.
Are you big on Spain this tournament?
I think you can't avoid how many great players they have. They're not a bad side.
We'll see. Let me ask you guys this: who is your dark horse of the tournament?
I'll jump in with either Belgium or Italy. Having said that, if Portugal can be considered a dark horse, I would also put them in there.
You cannot call the reigning Euro champions a dark horse. Unacceptable. 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 What about you, Joe?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like you said, Portugal, I think they might win it, but they're not a dark horse.
No.
Again, I don't know. I don't think I would say Belgium, actually. I feel like they've kind of, this is their current golden generation's last chance. I don't think they'll do it. I don't know. Maybe
What's up with De Bruyne's skull? Is he alive? Is he okay?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a bit of a Harry Maguire situation. They're just sort of bringing him along for the ride and just hoping he's okay at some point. Maybe
he'll play. He'll be fine. It's concussion protocol. It wasn't his nose. It's the doctors won't clear him for a concussion.
God, yeah. I mean, doesn't sound good for the Belgians, does it? But I mean, yeah, it's very. I feel it's very. I think partly what's so great about the Euros is it feels like it's always so open. Yeah, it's very hard to really put your finger on it for this one. I mean, maybe I don't know. I'll throw out, and I don't think they'll. But Germany, they obviously had a terrible World Cup. They don't normally have two bad tournaments in a row, so that'll be interesting to see how they do. There we go.
It's tough for Germany because they can finish third.
Yeah.
I'm going with my side country always has been the Dutch. That's kind of who I root for outside of Croatia because they're just fun and Amsterdam's a fun city. So how can you not? They ride bicycles a lot. Like how can you not like the Dutch? But Italy's my dark horse. They didn't make the World Cup in 2018. They are on a 27 match unbeaten streak. Do you guys know that?
They were doing well. I didn't know they were doing that well. But
27, and I think they're gonna fly under the radar. But yeah, okay, I think we agree on that. And I have to ask you this. I know I'm going off script. I got to ask you this. Who wins the whole thing?
I think Portugal have a very quietly impressive group of players with the likes of Ruben Dias, Bernardo Silva, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes. I think it's probably going to be Rui Patricio in goal, who's just like an ever-present, just like solid tournament goalkeeper. Even possibly Jose Font, if he's still in the squad, just won Ligue 1 in France. So they've got like some players coming off of some pretty good form, and they've got Cristiano Ronaldo. So
that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
All right, you're going Portugal. I mean, the consensus comes down to two teams. That's why I want to pick you guys.
Portugal and France, we're talking about. I mean, I'm sort of leaning more towards Portugal as well, a bit like for the reasons Kai said. Actually, when you look through their team, they've got some seriously impressive players.
Firepower across the board. But what about, I mean, I'm going with France. It's basically a coin flip, and that who's not watching that group stage match? Oh my goodness. But I'm going with France. They've been heavy. They made the final in France 5 years ago. They won the World Cup 3 years ago, as you know, but France won it in 98. And then who won Euro 2000?
France. You're right. Actually, there you go. I see where you're going with this.
They pull a back-to-back. They're not going to do anything for 20 more years, and then they'll pull another back-to-back in 20 years at World Cup UK. World Cup UK.
Well, it'll be good to see Benzema lining up for France as well for the first time in a long time.
He got hurt. Is he okay? He got hurt in that friendly.
Oh, no. I hope he's all right because I want to see Benzema versus Ronaldo, old teammate.
Maybe we won't see him.
We'll see. Well, I mean, we'll be keeping tabs through text because it's tournament time. I'm not wishing you guys any luck, but I hope for no injuries. But I want to keep this rivalry going because this is fun. There's nothing like going toe to toe with the English and with the Brits.
Well, you were speaking about Euro 2000 and France's triumph. I don't think that these questions from this game are going to span that far back, but I do have, a quick little game for Joe and Ante to play. It's our very own preview of England versus Croatia in that sense, if you will. I am going to ask you guys about historical stats and moments from Euro tournaments of the past, and We're going to see who gets more of them correct. The name of the game is Are You Sure About That?
Nice. Well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you.
Well done. I think you're the winner of this game already just for that.
Yeah, question 1. Do we like the name? No. Question 1. Are you ready, guys? I think we'll discover if there's a lag. And if there is a lag, then maybe I'll have to alternate the questions. But as it is, just if you have the answer, say it first. Which 18-year-old scored twice when Croatia met England at Euro 2004? Okay, Joe was in there first with Rooney. Ante, what was the score that day?
That score was 4-1, I believe.
I think it was 4-2, but that wasn't actually part of the quiz. I just wanted to see if Ante remembered the score from that day.
I forget when you thump us, because in World Cup qualifying you got us 5-1 and 4-1. So once you get past 3 goals, I tend to forget. I erase it from my brain.
Yeah, Joe and I haven't forgotten that one. Moving on to number 2. Who was the top scorer at Euro 2004?
Oh, that is Milan Baros.
Yeah, Joe added
for Czech.
Memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, Milan Baros just went crazy at that tournament and scored some great goals, including, I think, a lob against the Netherlands that was very impressive.
I was going to say it wasn't any Greek player because I think they scored 3 goals that whole tournament.
Yeah.
And managed to come out winners. Yeah, crazy tournament.
Unbelievable.
So I guess Joe's 2 up at this point. Moving on to the next question. All right, so this next player, he'll be close to both of you, but for different reasons. Who scored Croatia's opening goal at both Euro 2008 and Euro 2016?
Euro 2008 and Euro 2016, it was Mr. Luka Modric. He scored that stunner from outside the box against Turkey, 1-0 game. And then he scored a penalty kick against Austria, I believe, in that opener.
All right, so Ante's back in it. It was, of course, Luka.
Did you know that, Joe? Did you know that, Joe, or no?
I was wondering if it was for some reason in my head I thought maybe Cranchar, but then that was stupid because 2016, like where would Cranchar be then? But I remember now you've said it, I remember that Modric goal, that brilliant goal at Euro 2016.
It was that stunner, and a fan painted in checkers on his face comes down celebrates with the team. I don't know how he got on the field, but security at these tournaments are laughable.
Mm-hmm. All right, on to number 4. This player will also be close of you for the same different reasons as the last question. It's who scored the first goal in Croatia's 3-2 victory over England at Wembley in 2007 that we spoke about.
It was Niko Kranjčar. That was Kranjčar.
That one was Kranjčar.
It was the bouncer against, it was Carson was in net, I believe.
Scott Carson.
Carson was in net. And then Olic scored that goal from Eduardo da Silva. Beckham had that beautiful cross to Peter Crouch. And then we all know what Mladen Petric did in the second half. That was a fun game. For a qualifier, that was an incredible game. Well, from my perspective.
It was absolutely crazy, that game. In the pouring rain with oh God, bad memories for England.
McLaren, oh man, after just him with the umbrella at Wembley.
Very iconic image, not for the right reasons.
Yeah, pretty depressing in the end on our end of things. All right, so that's 2-2. I've got a couple more questions. And here we go. Despite not advancing beyond the group stage, which Croatian striker was one of 6 players to finish as joint top scorer at Euro 2012?
Mario Mandzukic scored 3 goals that tournament.
Jelavic.
It was Mandzukic. Nobody scored more than 3 goals. So you're correct, Ante, in that Mario...
There was 4 or 5 players that tournament that scored 3 goals, and I think it went to a Spaniard, I think, who had assists
or something, was it?
That makes sense. I wonder who that would have been. Maybe David Villa or something like that. But anyway,
maybe that rings a bell. I think it was a Spaniard. Hey, I'm beating Joe on his podcast for the first time ever.
Here's the last question.
One question left though, is there, Kai?
This has to be an English question.
Ante's either going to win or it's going to be a tie.
Or salvage a draw, hopefully. Fingers
just
crossed.
like at Wembley on Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll see if it replicates. So here we go, guys. Who finished as top scorer in qualifying for Euro 2020?
Harry Kane.
Boom. Joe has sealed draw. Yeah, he got 12 goals. 12 goals.
How many penalties?
How many penalties? Probably 10, to be honest with you.
He's the He's the English Bruno Fernandes, man.
Well, we'll take that. We'll take that on Sunday. A few penalties. I don't think anyone that's English will be complaining, but we'll see.
Hey, speaking of Bruno Fernandes and penalties, did you guys watch the Europa League final penalty kick live?
Yeah.
I've never seen a penalty kick shootout like that.
When
it comes back to the goalkeepers, it's pretty good entertainment for the neutral.
Poor De Gea, man. Poor De Gea. I know you guys hate him because he's a United guy, but poor guy. A little bit of my Croatian heart goes out to him. That sucks.
Well, that does bring us to the end of today's podcast. So, as always, a big thank you to my co-host Keitel, and of course, a special thank you to our number one guest, Ante Kvartuč. So, Ante, we obviously love having you on the show, and we hope you've enjoyed being a guest again. But for anyone that might be listening to you for the first time, how can they follow you and kind of follow everything that's going on with Croatian sports?
Yeah, if we're going to have a full analysis coming, throughout Euro 2021, but the website that I run, founder of croatiansports.com, right behind me. And then you want to follow us on Twitter, at Croatian Soccer, all one word. Appreciate the plug. And the only thing I have to tell you and your English mates out there on Sunday, always be closing, baby. ABC, always be closing. There is no try. There's only do. So we will see. And I'm looking forward to this game, another epic game in this rivalry on Sunday.
ABC, always be closing, always be Croatian. Either way, thanks again, Ante. I think the first time we recorded with you, we said we were gonna do this. I think the fixtures for Euro had already been announced, and so it's come full circle. We've had the conversation about the game. All that remains to be seen is what the result will be on Sunday. So I'll say good luck to you, because I think you're probably going to need it. But otherwise, good luck for the rest of the tournament in general and with the rest of your endeavors. To listeners and viewers, we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please do follow or subscribe wherever it is that you found us. We are United Mates Football Podcast on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Same name on YouTube, where you can put some faces to these voices as well. And then on social media, we're at United Mates FP across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Please follow us there. The website is unitedmatesfp.com, and all of the videos and podcasts end up there, as well as some great articles. So check that out, and please subscribe to our newsletter while you're at it. Until next time, everyone, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Goodbye.